Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
We're back for part 2 of the Greg story and then the Kevin story. I think we're going to follow up with. So I guess if we were if we really didn't just come up with that off the fly, we would have finished your story on that one and then done mine and then call it a 2-part series. But bear with us, guys. Neither one of us are Diane Sawyer. I mean, Greg kind of looks like Diane Sawyer. A young Diane Sawyer.
Whatever.
I'm sorry. I'm tired, man. It's been a lazy day for me. Okay. So we kind of finished off at talking about Greg's kind of what I call a gut punch or a tombstone moment where you're sort of oh man, is this going to be could this be the end of my business? I think everybody who's ever been in business for any term has probably experienced at least one of those moments. So we get through the woods of COVID and, obviously we've talked about how last year was it was an amazing rush for water sports and growth in our sector, and everybody that was involved in the business did really, really well. So a couple things here. So it's partially a 2-part question. But what do you see for the future of the industry? And then what do you see for your personal future and your goals? So why don't we start with the first part of that? What do you think the industry looks like going into 2022? For water sports, for TripShock.
I really feel like 2022 is going to be pretty much at the same levels of 2021 as in terms of demand goes. I'd be really surprised if we had the 50% year-over-year increases that a lot of businesses reported, because there was people that didn't vacation in 2020 that were ready to just go all out. So you got to think some people, they might go somewhere once every couple of years, whether it be Florida or Alabama or South Carolina or New Orleans or whatever, and they didn't get to do their trips the past couple of years. So all that pent-up demand, they unleashed in 2021. It was a huge year. The demand was crazy. People had a bunch of money from the government, from stimulus. And so just thinking about all those different factors, I just can't imagine that 2022 is going to be a huge breakout. Do I think it's going to be a great year? I do think it is. But I'm personally staying somewhat conservative. I kind of had a more aggressive budget in 2021 because I knew just from all the data that I read that people were planning to vacation. There was a lot of money in the economy. I felt really good about it. But 2022, I feel like it's going to be a great year, but it's just not going to have that extraordinary demand. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really necessarily playing it super conservative, but I'm planning on not seeing that extraordinary growth that we saw.
So before you go into what you your personal goals and the things that you see yourself doing in the next 3 to 5 years, to that point though, do you see wave res growth? Do you see do you see wave? Because we never talk about wave res too much on the show. Are you guys taking on? Did you guys notice were you taking on more partners and stuff like that for 2021?
Yeah, we doubled our client in 2021 for wave res.
Incredible, man. That's an incredible feat, man. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's, and you got to think just to stay humble here. It's not like we're doubling from 100 to 200. We're talking doubling 20 to 40. Cause we're more of a niche boutique software. So we're not going after every single business. We're identifying ones that fit well in our ecosystem. They have to fit the criteria, they got to be water related, and a lot of them work with TripShock already. We want them to be successful when they start, because sometimes when you join a software or start using a software, there's a lot of promises, and we're trying to mitigate that a little bit. And some of them that join, it's a very turnkey deal where they join and they get, the best of both worlds, being on Trip Shock, and Wave Res, and getting the assistance. Some of our best clients are companies that are just starting that need guidance. It's like having an additional employee when you work with our companies. Really excited about Wave Res and all that going on, but it's just kind of going back to what we said before in the first part. There's something special about the industry. People are wanting to get outside and get out in the water. And I wonder if COVID forced us to get out of our homes and explore our backyards a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like it really brought a whole new element to society. And it really makes me want to go outside more and do things, I really appreciate, my region, just within the greater Northwest Florida area.
So what if you had to pick 3 big picture goals for you, for your career and for your companies and for your future? Where do you see yourself at in, let's say, 10 years?
I see myself, man, that's a tough question because I only think in terms of 2 to 5. Honestly, I don't know where I'll be in 10 years. I don't know if I'll still be, at Trip Shock. I don't know if I'll still be Wave Res. I don't know what I'll be doing. Sometimes, we change. Sometimes we get into different things and we start finding other opportunities. But the way things are going right now with my companies, if they continue and I still continue to be excited like I am now, then I'll be doing it for 10 years. Now, at 10 years, I'd be with Trip Shock for 23 years. It's a hell of a long time to be with the company. I
remember with Trip Shock, you're like their VP or something. With Trip Shock, you're not with Trip Shock, motherfucker. You are Trip Shock.
I know, but I feel, but it's a team thing. So
yeah, that's right. That's a great.
But yeah, that's a long time, and I always give a lot of credit to people who stay with their companies for 20, 30 years. That's very admirable. But as an entrepreneur, there's always new things that come my way, and you just never know when another opportunity come. Maybe I, open up a water sport company and compete with you.
I doubt it.
Open up a place right next to you, Kevin.
No. I have a great deal for you. You don't even have to do that. We'll just make it real nice and tidy. No way.
I don't even,
you buy that. You tell me a course. Well, you throw in a course on NFTs and blockchain, and we'll be good, man. We can that up.
Honestly, I have no idea what the future holds. I kind of take it in small chunks, 1 to 2 years at a time. And right now, my focus is Trip Shock and Wave Res. That is to make sure that I add value to the company and our equity, and help progress our employees and advance them, get to where they want to be. That's all the stuff that's really important to me.
Yeah, man. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's Greg Fisher. I don't know if you need to go to one show to wrap this man up. I think this would probably be a pretty good one, but then it's not true. There's so many great things throughout this journey, man, that I've been able to learn about and from you, man. So, I think anyone that listens or comes to forums, I wonder if they think you're just feeding me cash on the back end, you know what I mean? Kevin's actually secretly works for Trip Shock, but no, it's really been interesting getting to know you, man. And when we do these shows, a lot of times, guys, when we first got started the show, we would do these pre-show things, and what we kind of found out was we'd have this 45-minute conversation with somebody, and all this cool stuff is happening. And at one point, we were just man, let's just cut this down to 10 minutes, and then make everything way more spontaneous. And Greg, and we've obviously we've both been super busy. We haven't got to talk on the phone as much as we were when the whole city fight thing was happening. And we were actually getting a lot more ideas for shows when we were having those conversations. But the spontaneity that exists with our guests that also exists on the show, I find out all sorts of new factoids about you, little idiosyncrasies and funny things in your stories. So, but this sums Greg up. But if you haven't, go back and listen. Another 50 episodes. Learn all about Greg Fisher. And I think that wraps up this portion of our 2-part series on the Greg and Kevin mysteries.
Yeah.
Now it's my turn, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it's your turn now.
Ugh. Everybody make sure your kids are not in the car. Let's go ahead and slice open this raw.
Speaking of that, I can't. Every podcast I seem to listen these days, there's swearing and things like that, and it's like I stop even listening to podcasts in my car with my kids because it's everything, and I don't mind it. It's just like, can I listen to one damn show without F this, F that? But it is what it is.
I love it. I teach my kids to swear and properly. Like my oldest daughter will be like, "What the shit, Dad?" And I'm like, No. October. It's what the fuck. What the fuck, Dad? Not what the shit. You swear so awkwardly.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. Parent of the year.
Anyways, okay. Let's start from the beginning. I know you started coming from the middle, but let's start from the beginning.
Oh yeah, we can do mine linear. That's fine.
I want to know how in the hell you went from Detroit to Key West. Let's start there.
Yeah, it's a fun story. So I lost my job. I was a plumber, and it was like 2008. So the recession, like beginning of 2008, the recession had just hit. Things were pretty bad. We just had our daughter. She was like 6 months old. We just got married, and I lost my job. And I think I had I think I just got back from Las Vegas, and I think I had $2,000 to my name, and I lost $2,000. So I was like 28 or something like that. And so I sensibly lost our entire life savings, which I didn't at the time think anything of it because I was living paycheck to paycheck anyway. Lost my job, came back. A really good friend of mine that I grew up with, who is my current business partner, Alphonse, he owned a parasail company in Key West that I'm not going to actually say their name because the guy who took it over did a lot of stupid shit and and I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, regardless, he offered me a job on his boat. We had grown up together, and he knew things were pretty tough for me. So I left my wife and my daughter in Detroit, and I came to Key West to work on his parasail boat, which was supposed to be for a summer to tide me over until I got back, till the economy recovered, and I went back to plumbing. Cause I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's what I was doing at the time. I was a plumber. I was an apprentice. I wasn't even making killer money. I hated it. I wasn't very good at it. And I got on a boat. I'd never really even been on a boat. I was never into boating, nothing like that. But as if you've ever listened to the show before, we talked about the pictures thing. I was good at sales. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there, man. So I got through 3 months. I think I saved $10,000 that first summer. It was the most amount of money I'd ever had in my life. And I was just oh my God, it was so easy and so much fun. And the Sunset gave me a shot because I was working for Alphonse on his boat. And then, he wanted me to go work for a company that had just a little more opportunity for me and stuff like that because he was a owner operator. And I got a year underneath my belt of being a mate, and I got my captain's license, and I was really terrible at it for the first 6 months, but I kept on doing it. And that was it, man. I was water sports.
Did you want to be a captain for just the money, or was there something else?
No, man, because I was at this point I was encroaching on 30. I didn't feel like I was wanting anything with my life. And I was a mate. I was the oldest mate. And I felt super weird. After going back, I'm going 29. What am I doing with my life? But no, it just, I wanted to drive the boat. It looked like a hell of a lot of fun. And there was extra money, of course, but it was probably the first time in my life where I experienced a professional fulfillment. The entire time I was in Detroit and I was plumbing, I was also going to school. I was going to college at night for English. I wanted to do something else. I did not want to work in manual labor. I didn't want to be a plumber. I wanted to be a writer and a teacher. And so that all flew out the window with parasailing. With the money, it's so much money. I was I would finish a degree in 4 years and not make half of what I'm making now, teaching, even creative writing at a community college or something, and then trying to get tenure. It's yeah. So
you did parasailing for 10 years or so? How long did you do it for?
Yeah, I was a parasail captain for 10 years.
Wow. And during that time, there was probably a moment that you decided that, man, I could do this on my own, or I could start my own business. Like, when did that entrepreneurial spark happen?
Well,
Was there a moment that you said, man, I think I need to do this on my own?
yeah. So, I mean, so anybody that's ever worked on a boat, at some point you go, I can do this. You know, you look at it. I don't think there's anybody I've ever met that's worked on a boat says, well, I'm just going to buy a boat and then charge customers and then do this. Right. Believe it or not, that was not my intent. I still, for a long time, kept up with the idea that I was going to, at some point in my future, go back, finish my degree, get my MFA. Like, I wanted to write. Like, to this day, I still love, like, even if it's like long Facebook posts or something, I still really enjoy writing and creating. And I love the written word. I love reading. So I wanted to go back to school. Initially, I was going to go to North Carolina and finish up my degree at UNC and trying to get my MFA, Master's in Fine Arts, and continue on that. What happened is my wife got pregnant, and like all those plans, our life savings, we're going to buy a house. I was going to go back to school, you know, maybe work in the summers or something like that in the Outer Banks. We talked about that. And I came to this region and to actually look at parasail jobs after we were trying to buy a house in Key West. After she got pregnant with our second daughter, I just kind of was like, you know, there's never a future where I can go back to school with 2 kids or whatever. And, so we came up here after the house went through. We came to, like, actually Fort Walton Beach for a vacation. We didn't even stay in Destin. We stayed in Fort Walton Beach. And I got here and I started looking at the companies. And then it was just like this light bulb went off in my head. Not even a light bulb. It was just like a grab. Like, I was just like, it was just from the websites. It was from the digital marketing perspective, which I didn't know anything about. But I was just like, these websites are terrible. I'm like, it can't be that hard to build a better website than this. It can't be that hard to drive traffic. It can't be that hard to have a social media presence. I looked at companies in Key West and in South Florida that were really doing well and were really doing it right. And I just said, I can make this happen here. Like, this is not the end of the world. I didn't look for dock spaces or nothing. I was like, I'm moving here and starting a water sports company. I can do this.
Obviously, Key West is probably a lot more expensive to find space and start a business. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it was never a thought to actually start a business in Key West where you knew you were going to go outside. Was it Fort Walton always on top on the list, or do you have other locations?
No, I just, Destin was the place to be. That's obviously where we wanted to be. But for me, it wasn't, I didn't think we were going to be doing boats and jet skis. Like, I didn't have an understanding of the market in that regard. As far as like, oh, it's too saturated. That's what I thought. So I wanted to bring a new product here that wasn't here. And that was like the combo trips and the day of play and like the stuff that they were doing down there. I wanted to bring that here and scale that. And so seeing that there was what I thought at the time was a hole in the market and a problem that needed to be solved, I wanted to bring that aesthetic here. And
so when determining where to find a spot in Fort Walton, walk us through that process of, so you decided that you want to leave Key West, start your own business. Walk us through that process of coming up here, finding a spot. What are some of the mistakes you made?
It's the mistakes that I make now. I focus more on the mistakes that I make now, and the ones that I did then I did everything the right way. And anybody listening to this, I mean, like I hate to be that if you can dream it, you can do it guy, but I did not find a spot, Greg. I bought a boat. I bought the jet skis. I bought floating docks. I bought the inflatables. I bought everything. I was like, this is happening. I was driving to Destin to go look for slips. And I was like, oh, look, Marine Max, wet slips available. I went in there, talked to the manager. He was like, no. And I was like, okay, well, if you change your mind, then that was the only thing I did wrong there is I took no for an answer the first time and walked out. Today, I'd probably have pressed it a little bit more. I pressed it a lot more and then followed up and called him again. But so he told me no. And then I went into Destin. I drove around. I think I called like Freedom Boat Club, like, because I couldn't find anything online. I was looking online for slips. I couldn't find anything online. I had no idea about the moratorium. I talked to Claude Perry, and he wanted to rent me like the entire marina. He was like, "Yeah, it'll be like 15 grand a month or something, or 10 grand a month," which at the time I was like, astronomical. And so this is all just like day one, when I went hunting for slips. Day 3, Chuck called me back, Chuck O'Neill over at Legendary Marine. Man, if it wasn't for that guy, I really don't know what we would have done. But he called me back and said, "Hey, I think he shot me what he thought was a crazy number." And I was just like, done, because I was expecting $1,000 a slip. So when he told me, because at the time I was like, when I did my math on it, I figured I could do like $400,000 out of that one slip. And so I was like, yeah, $1,000 or $600. I'm cool, man. In fact, I had budgeted $1,500. Now that I think it was $1,500, I had budgeted for the slip. When he called me back and said $600, I was like, yeah, done. And I mean, that was it. We dropped the boat in the water and brought it to the slip and started building out the jet ski docks. And the reason I say today I'm a little bit more cautious, where there I just was like, I just had this dream, and it was just like there was nothing in my head that said there was this no other option, but this is going to be no problem. I'm the optimistic opportunity, the idiot entrepreneur probably. Yeah, I never thought for a second that it wouldn't work out.
We have everything set up. It's your first year. Tell us what were some of the things that you did right, that you can like confidently say to listeners that, man, I'm so glad I did this. This made a big difference in my year one.
Man, and I know it sounds like we're like in this like a long pitch for like our forums and our group and everything like that, but I had a network. And I had one friend in that network, and I didn't reach out. He reached out to me because we were doing flyboarding. So Ben Merrill, who's like hydroflight world champion when, that was a thing. But also one of the last successful people to be doing hydroflight in the country, very small knit group of people. So he had heard or found out about us somehow, and he just randomly called me up. That's the kind of guy Ben is. And he called me up and said, "Hey, my name is Ben Merrill, blah, 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 blah." And when I first came in this market, I very much had the mindset of cutthroat competition, not working together, like, stick your enemy's head in the water and then stick a hose down their throat, like this type of thing, like, business has got to be cutthroat. So we made that relationship with Ben and Power Up Watersports. I also found out that like the boat rentals were day of play was a struggle. It was not an easy launch. I was going out there with 2 people, and I was probably losing money, and I was working like 14 hours a day, for like $15 or something stupid. And the company would make $15, not even me, because I wasn't paying myself. And the phones kept on calling for boats. Like it was just dumb. And so I was like, we've got to figure out how to get a couple boat rentals in here too. Because initially MarineMax wanted to do boat rentals, and then they were like, "Nah, we don't want. The corporate doesn't want to deal with it. Go ahead and do it if you want to do it." So, what I learned there was that like throw out how you think things are going to be. Like no matter what plan that you have made, the world has a different plan for you. That's for sure. Like there's nothing, you're never going to execute a plan the way you thought it was going to go down. And also, you have to be open to partnerships. You have to be open to networking, and your competitor is not your enemy. And those are the 2 biggest lessons that I learned from that first year.
Yeah. I'm going to have to agree with you on the networking side. Networking is everything. And a lot of people just assume that your competitor hates you just because it's competition, and competition can have a negative connotation. I think the first thing you should do in your first year is to meet as many operators as you can, because you have no idea if that marina that you're at gets sold. You have no idea if you lose employees and they go to your competitors, and you might have another opportunity to reach into your network to find another manager. There is so much to gain by being friends with people and talking. And I know if you're an introvert, it's difficult to do, but maybe you hire someone that is more social that can do that for you. So I think that's great piece of advice. Is to really start building your network on day one. Join the Chamber of Commerce, and just talk to your chamber president or the membership people and say, hey, I'm new, and can you introduce me to people? It doesn't necessarily have to be other water sport or tour people, but just people in the community that you can get things from. Like, I can't tell you how many opportunities Kevin and I had from our partnership to do things. Like, we talked about Donald Slappy from Hancock Bank, setting Kevin up and putting him in its success. Like, banking, that's like, gosh, man, banking is pivotal to your business. If you cannot get credit or financing, you are not going to be able to get your boats in time for season. And, just think if you get your boats 90 days after the kickoff of the summer, just consider it a loss. I mean, you make especially in like Northwest Florida, where you make all your money in 90 days. If you can't get the financing to get your boats before then, that's why, banking is huge. And that's just going off on a little tangent there. But there's one realization of networking. So huge. Let's fast forward a little bit. Year one's out of the way, and now a lot of other ideas are coming. How do you decide what to bring to Destiny? Like, do you have a process, or are you just kind of like, going online and looking at what other businesses are doing, or visiting other tour operators? Like, how do you decide what products to bring to your business?
For us, it was subtracting products, actually, because I just wanted to be everything to everyone, and you can't, like, not in the beginning, at least. You have to do what you're good at, and you have to really niche down, and you have to really find what it is that you enjoy, that not just now, but are going to enjoy 5 years down the line. Like, as entrepreneurs, we suffer from bright, shiny toy syndrome, every single last one of us.
You started with flyboarding, jet ski tours, jet ski rentals, pontoons, day of play. And I think you did pontoon charters too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had 6 products.
Because no matter what, I wanted to have something. So it's like, if I was going to go do a charter, if that boat wasn't going out doing day of play, if the jet skis weren't out doing tours, then they were going to do free rental. We were doing combos. Like, I stacked it up. I'm still
I forgot to say kayak and paddleboards too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I was like figuring out how we were going to do kayak and paddleboard tours. Like, that was going to be my next thing. Mm-hmm. I had this idea of like presenting this like really big, and that got it right too, because we did present ourselves online as this like big corporate, it's like this big water sport company, and then people, but we also had like the family run business charm too. And you were looking at our marketing materials. So I wanted to merge those two ideas together, that people were going to have the same experience and the same, standardization across products, but at the same point in time, get the charm of, the lifestyle, family run business.
It's funny because I sometimes see it two ways. Sometimes I see a business starting out with a wide variety of different products, and then they dial it down, or they start small and then they build up. Yeah. And I guess there's advantages and disadvantages to both, because if you start with a handful, you can figure out like what you really enjoy doing and what has the best profit margins. And then the other end of it, if you start off with a few, you can kind of, once you get good at that, you can start adding more and more. But when I look at a lot of operations, they end up kind of focusing on just a few products that they know really well, they can monetize, right, and so forth.
Well, Sunset I always loved about them because there was like always a special place in the company's heart for parasailing. Like at its core, Sunset Watersports was a parasail company. Now they're one of the biggest water sport companies in the country, arguably the world. But they started off with one guy in a boat, and it's like, I think that's so cool, man. Like, I love Rich Welter's story. I'm like, I want to get him on the show so bad because it is an amazing story. But and I'm not going to tell it, but to see one guy in a boat, he slept on his boat. Like, he's got the great entrepreneurial story. And then they scaled up to this massive company, but at their heart, like, this is what they did. Like, this is what they love. Like, jet skis and boat rentals are great, but in my heart, like, I'm a parasail guy, you know what I mean? But so I'm a water sport company guy. Like I love a range of diversity, but what I learned is that like you got to dial these things in, especially when you're talking about having a lot of boats, like 10 plus boats, 10 plus jet skis. I mean, that's a lot. That's a big fleet to handle. And if you don't watch yourself, you don't know, if you don't understand, like guys come in with 25, 30 boats or something like that to start. And they're not ready for the enormity of it. Like, even if you are cranked, like you might be running 5 to 10 boats out of your fleet. And then you do have that one day you have 25 boats go out. And it's like all hell breaks loose, man. Like you were never ready. You were understaffed. You were underprepared. There's a bunch of things you did not count. You did not count for, you didn't apply for utilization. And you weren't ready for that. You didn't have the staff. You didn't have the infrastructure. You were missing a whole bunch of pieces to that puzzle. So I think it's very important to understand your core product first, and then you have to build things out around that. And those things you can build to scale depending on what your passion is for, depending on what your margins are for, depending on what the market's concerned, what the market's demanding, and then the market sort of kind of decides who you are, especially if you're offering these products. But you have to know your core products like the back of your hand.
So I want to hear, so you've been in business for around 4 years, right?
Yeah, this will be our 5th year.
Okay. In those 4 years, talk about a moment that somewhat defined you as an entrepreneur.
Man, it's like there's so many times where I just felt like, oh, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. And then it's just like, man, something else horrible happened. And I don't mean to dissuade anybody from entrepreneurship, but that's what entrepreneurship is.
Well, I honestly, Kevin, I think you should focus in on
this one, the last one.
Yeah, I want you to focus in on the marina issue, because I think that
should I be vitriolic or?
You don't have. It's up to you. It's you're the co-host, but I want you to go walk our listeners through the emotions of when you found out and how you dealt with it and how where you're at now. Like, I think that is a testament to your character and you as an entrepreneur. And I think that's, people have to hear this because it could happen to anybody.
Yeah. I'm going to try and, I'm a little bit of a mix of politics and vitriol here because I did take this very personally. So we got evicted from our marina. So man, it's like so hard to be not unemotional about it, but so we got evicted, but I was given privy because I'm what I consider that I'm a pretty good person and I have ethics and morals and I've done business. Like, I don't fuck people over. That's not my MO. Like, I think there's more than enough to go around for everybody. And I could be interpreting the events the way they happen from an skewed nature, and they might not have been intended to be this way. But my interpretation of them, even afterward, like we're in a much better situation. My interpretation to this day was I see that the way it was done is very cutthroat. First of all, they gave us almost no notice. They packed in 4 companies into this marina, and I always knew that what was happening was there was something going on. But they packed in 4 or 5 companies all on top of each other. They provided very little infrastructure. And then I was had somebody that was close to their deal that gave me a little bit of a heads up. And when I reached out to management, they would neither confirm nor deny it. And they were, it was almost in, and I don't know what's happening in the background. Maybe they weren't 100% sure what was going on and they wanted, they were waiting another year. I don't know.
But just to be clear though, you were not just the only one. There was multiple companies evicted.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. There was 4 family-run companies rather, all evicted. And then there was a lot of things that came after that and during that were done with, it was almost malice is the only way I can describe what happened. So long story short is we got evicted with almost no notice. The relationship between myself and the marina became hostile to the point where I stopped just dealing with them, responding to emails, like things of this nature. Like, as I said, it almost became like they were trying to sabotage what we had left. They're going into off season. They offered us that the initial offer was to double our rent, which is, I mean, there's people, they were releasing people before we ever came in out of their obligation to stay in their slips to help these local fishermen and small companies. We were the first water sport company in there. So the management before, they would let these guys go for 6 months and then come back. So they weren't charging them more money. So there was very much a dynamic that I'm not used to dealing with. And I don't want to use the word treacherous, but that's the way it felt. Like it definitely felt like things were being done to hurt our companies and to make sure that we were going to go out of business. Not that we were not just not going to have a home, but that the landlord had started a competing business, used their management to help with another company's infrastructure and gave them their logins to their fair harbors, and then used all of the framework and infrastructure that he had put into his business to build up their business. So it's like, yeah, right. Like copy your competitors and find a good business model that works, copy them, replicate it, and make money. That's fantastic. We all look at each other, what everybody's doing, and when you're first getting something started. But it was done within a type of way where it was like, oh, hey, we're going to work together. We can help each other out. I can do help with your check-in. And then their management had access to everything he was doing. And they were quietly behind the scenes building a water sports company. And then the only reason that we were given any kind of notice was because I had found out and I'd opened my big fat mouth, because even though those guys were my competitors and it would have given me like a head start or a leg up to find somewhere before they did, I just couldn't in good conscience, like I knew these guys. I could not in good conscience not let them know that they were being evicted. Yeah. So I just, I let it go. I say, hey guys, you're being evicted and we're all being evicted. And
when you first got the news, we spoke and you were pretty upset. Talk about that, like that week, like what was going through your head, and when did you kind of say, fuck it, find something and I'm going to take this opportunity and make it better?
The next day. I was scrambling, you know what I mean? I was definitely scrambling to find something. And then every single idea I came up with, it was going to be better than what we had. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, we can go here and then they'll do this and we won't have to put up with that. And then we can do this, or we can go out there and we can make this happen. And every opportunity that didn't say present itself, because I was in a mad dash to try and find opportunities, looked like, in my mind, like we're just going to make the best of this work. But internally, it was really hard, man, because I'm like, where am I going to put 17 boats and a dozen jet skis? Like, this is not just some easy thing I can go deal with. This isn't one boat, one slip, or a catamaran, something like this. This is a bunch of boats and a business and my employees and everything else. So internally, I was panicking, but externally, I was like, we'll make this work. Don't worry about it. We'll find somewhere new. Everything will be good. Every single time that we've been in a bad situation, that bad thing has turned out to be the best thing that could happen for us. So it took me a while to get to that place, and it was a very long, ongoing process to figure that better thing out.
It's kind of like when you lose your job, like you're like, fuck, what am I going to do? Am I going to get through this? And then you end up finding a job that's, twice as much money, better conditions, more challenging. There's advancement opportunities. It seems like that's kind of what happened.
It crushed me at first. That week I found out, I just brought my daughter for the first time. It was like the proudest moment in my life, man. Like I was handing something down to my kid that like wasn't money, like a work ethic, the pedigree, the experience that I have in this industry. Like I really felt like I was handing something down to my daughter that was more important than anything. And that was going to be a lesson in life. And it was our first day on the dock. And it was literally like the next day they told me that. And I was just like, I was for a moment pretty shattered there. It was real hard. I mean,
was there part of you that kind of knew this would happen, or? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just considering the environment we're in, I mean, this is not the first time in our area where landowner wants to put a pontoon boat company or start a water sport company. They're all seeing the money that's being made right now. So
yeah, that sweet greed.
yeah.
Man. I knew that they were always going to develop it. There was always the talk of tearing down the docks and putting something there. It just wasn't sure what it was going to be. It was always like going to be a great thing. You know what I mean? There's going to be this great thing. We're going to put a new marina here. We're going to have parking. It's going to be great. So it was always like to our benefit that this was going to happen. It was never like, a couple of you guys aren't going to stand out. I knew that could be a possibility. I never thought in a million years it would be all of us. I thought a couple of us were going to be able to stick around. You know what I mean? And I was obviously trying to build that relationship with the landlords and the managers to try and, be that guy to at least one of the guys that were going to be able to stick around and make that a great destination.
But going back to what we discussed before about building a network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because of that network, tell us.
Yeah. That first guy that reached out to me about flyboarding, Ben had owned majority ownership in another water sports company. And he said, he was like, yeah, me and Patrick have we have a deal for you. And we want you to buy Ben out and come over there and be the majority owner and bring some infrastructure and work a deal with Patrick. And we just got the paper signed, so I can talk about this. So I wouldn't want to launch our new location to anybody but any of you guys that are out here listening to us. So I'm happy to do it here first because we actually just did sign some paperwork and exchange some handshakes and stuff like that. So throughout the course of the last 4 months, we had been working on like negotiating a deal that made sense for everybody. And then we're able to get the vast majority of it. We're still going to keep on some aspects of the original ownership are going to stay on with us in a pretty limited capacity, but it will be a Destiny Water Adventures asset. It will be Destiny Water Adventures new location and home. And so yeah, man. It's the location itself is amazing. It's not far from our where we were. It's still in Fort Walton Beach. It's our home. We talked with management, and there's a much better.
You can grow. You can grow there too. Like there's opportunity to grow. That's a huge deal.
So we can grow, and they were very much so about like the relationship end of things and the conversations that we had. It was like. That sentences were uttered like everything's not about money. And obviously like I'm of that mindset as well. I'm about building relationships and making things mutually advantageous for people. I've never been one for fucking people over, man. Like I understand business is business and things can get like, pretty murky out there sometimes. And like, I hold no ill will against the owners of that property. I think things should have been handled a little bit differently. Again, I don't know what was happening in the background, but it did, I hate to go backwards because we're talking about going forward, but it did sort of feel like there was like an active, like we want to put you, like you're our competitors. We want to fucking put you guys out of business. Like there's going to be nowhere for you to go. So that aesthetic's not there. We have, we have autonomy there. We're just us there. We're the only water sports company there. And we have really awesome, cool plans, things that I've always wanted to do that I couldn't do at that property that we're going to have the opportunity to help build up that property and be an asset to that property and be, great tenants and add value. And that's always just sort of been a hallmark of my brand, I guess.
Awesome. Well, we got 5 minutes left and I want to talk about the future and ask you kind of the same question that you asked me is professionally, where do you see yourself and Destiny in 3, 5, 10 years, whatever you can answer? You're probably going to give me a similar one.
I know what I want to do. First of all, people that fuck me over, look out, man. Like you're fucking with a beast. I don't care how much money anybody has. Like I've been in this game for a long time. I eat and breathe and sleep. This shit it. This is my entire life. It's all I think about. And I love what I do. This is not a cash grab for me. So I caution anybody that it is. you know what I mean? That it's a cash grab for you. It's a very difficult business to make a cash grab for. You got to really be invested in it. So we're going to grow Destiny. That's absolutely one. Two, Destin Jeep is Jeep Destin. Jeep Destin, it's a tentative, it's a working title in progress. But we're starting a Jeep and passenger van rental company. We have started one. We formed the LLC. We have our offices. We've made our first 2 purchases. We're fully financed. Like, that is not a dream. That is a reality. Shout out Donald Slappy and Hancock Whitney for helping us make that a reality. So that's my second company. I've talked about, and I do actually have an OTA site. I just really not talked about it because it's sort of like in limbo, but that's going to progress this year as well. We're talking about some other strategic partnerships. Like, the goal has always just been to expand and diversify and increase my footprint in the space and develop my personal brand and build legacy and provide value and create relationships and build my network. And, you know, I've always had this dream and this idea that you can take lifestyle and you can take economies of scale and you can put them together and you can create a life and a brand that's filled with not just wealth from a monetary standpoint, but like a wealth of relationships and a more spiritual wealth. And man, I'm just going to keep on that path. And so far, that trajectory and that attitude has gotten me what I feel to be, so much further than a guy from Detroit who had his head in his hands because he had lost a job making $15 an hour. And here I am, 15 years later. So living what most people would consider a dream life. So I'm going to spend time with my family. We're going to bust out a bunch of episodes. They're going to be every day, but we're leaving. We're leaving. Me and my wife are doing our 20th anniversary and in a couple of weeks, and we're going to go out of country and have some fun. And I'm just going to keep on doing what I do, man. It's going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's actually for a lot of people that don't necessarily have a tight network in their community. Maybe that there's very few water sport companies, in their destination. The podcast kind of gives them that outlet, to hear stories from us and others. So if you're listening and you're in that situation, that's one of the reasons why we started the podcast, to give you an opportunity to, and it's not like we're hard to get in touch with. I just was messaging with someone who's starting a new business in Gulf Shores, Alabama, that listened to our show. So I'll give a shout out to I think his name's Cameron. And he's just getting started with his first boat. So pretty exciting. And we want to be here for you if you don't have that initial network, but we definitely encourage you to get out there and meet your fellow water sport and tour operators. But that's going to wrap it up here for our part 2 of our two-part series of the Greg and Kevin story. And
Barbara Walters, eat your heart out.
Barbara, yeah. If you want to continue the conversation, ask us more questions, and you can go to our Facebook group, Water Sport and Tour Professionals. You can like our Facebook page, Awkward Watersport Guys. We don't really do much of Instagram or LinkedIn. We got to kind of get on that, right?
I think you tasked me with the worst possible thing.
I know. I think we're at this point where we just need to find someone to do all of our editing and social media. Actually, I was listening to another podcast, and they're like, outsource. So we got to get on that, because I still edit all of the episodes, and it's freaking time consuming.
Well, listen, once the mics go cold, man, we're gonna have a conversation about that real quick, because I talked to somebody about who does this. So
okay.
Anyway, cool. Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for listening to me pontificate, and Greg and me have to grab information out of Greg. He's not as much of an open book as I am, man. You're blossoming. You're blossoming into a wonderful, beautiful social butterfly, Greg.
Jeez. All right, guys. Hey, as always, keep it awkward.
Real awkward.